Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 will be the most extreme year of our whole decade. It will be a fundamental break, it will be a huge cesura similar to the year 2020. At the same time, it will also be the complete opposite of 2020 because back then with Corona, we had one single monolithic topic that overshadowed the whole globe. And for weeks, for months, even for years, the whole world was just circulating around one single issue. Now, in contrast, in 2025, we will have a whirlwind of multiple different topics and issues. We will have manifold, varied different topics popping out from many different corners. Because on the meta perspective, if we look at the astrological cycles, we are still in this huge transition phase from the astrological Earth age, the age of capitalistic consumer society that started in the year 1800 with the Industrial Revolution, to the Air age, which is kind of an idealistic knowledge and wisdom society. And in the first 5 years, I always make these smaller periods from 2020 to 2025. We had I called it in German, Sturm and Drang period, which can be translated as storm and stress period, which was very chaotic, very uncertain. There was no orientation. Instead, now from 2025 to 2030, we have the acceleration period of the Earth, of the Air age. So this means that developments become exponential, rocket-like. So it's not linear like in the old Earth age, it's exponential. And everything is connected with everything. So there's also a much, much higher level of complexity. So in 2025, we will see the beginning of this acceleration phase. So no stone will be left unturned. The leitmotif I call the Great Flood. The Great Flood that will wash away, that will cleanse, that will purge everything that has become obsolete from the old Earth age. So we will really face extremely fast developments, and for us as human beings, it means we have to get out of the couch and right out into action. On the next level of astrological constellations, we will have a very unique constellation that I call the Katalypse 2025. We see it here on this chart. First, we have Pluto, the celestial body of our collective fashions and obsessions, of our models and trends of our thinking systems. Pluto always shows where all people, where, let's say, our collective is running after and wants to receive, to perceive something. And Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, and this was kind of a potentiation of all the structocracies, of big giant systems, big giant concerns. For example, even the states, they kind of they were blown up immensely. So the state quota in most countries has really reached uncomparable highs in these years. And now Pluto in Aquarius means that our new leitmotif, that our new collective target is freedom, is kind of breaking out of the old systems, crushing the old systems. Next, Uranus, the planet of innovation and transmutation, the planet of disruption, has been in Taurus now for 6 years, and this really radically changed all our relationships to possession and to matter, to the physical basis of our economies. And now Uranus is going into Gemini. In Taurus, it was kind of a very uncomfortable atmosphere. Yeah, Uranus always wants us to open up the windows, and Taurus always wants us to close the windows. And this was what the atmosphere was looking like. Now, with Uranus in Gemini, everything is speeding up. Now, inventions and technologies and technological innovation will really increase exponentially. We will see radical revolutions in fields like artificial intelligence, artificial superintelligence, augmented reality, hyperspace, and all these stuff. We will see developments in the spheres of space rocketing, for example. So everything that was kind of quite complicated in the last years will run very smooth and very elegantly and very fast with Uranus in Gemini. And the third, we will see Saturn and Neptune in conjunction at 0 degree of Aries. And this will bring a complete revolution, a radical shift in how we organize our societies. Yeah? It will also bring a radical shift on our relationship to welfare and well-being. What makes us as humans be united in societies, and how should our society work? Yeah? And this has to be redefined periodically. So from time to time, we have it every, let's say, 35 years, that we have to spend new thoughts on these topics and, let's say, organize our society, organize our organization, which we have together as people, in a completely new way. So this Katalypse constellation, we see they are united by a grand trine and sextiles and conjunction, which is a power triangle. And this Katalypse brings the four masters, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, of our collective fate, from the inner signs, from the inward zodiac signs, to the outward zodiac signs, to those that go into the visible, to those that go into action. And so while in the last years everything was kind of in the background and it took quite long before it came into visibility, now things will get into visibility immediately. And so this will speed up everything immensely. So while the last years have been dominated by the astrological elements of earth and water, the inward elements, now everything goes into the outward elements, into air and into fire. On my German YouTube channel, in my last annual forecast, I said the leitmotif of 2024 is the greatest enemy comes from within. And if you look back at the last year, we really saw that the greatest enemy was coming from within. We saw an enormous increase of cyber attacks, of espionage, of sabotage. We saw new dimensions of hybrid warfare. We saw giant data leaks and giant data thefts. For example, even in Italy, there was one huge case where even Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's data was robbed. We see online betrayals. We see an enormous increase of fake accounts in the internet. So with digitalization, we put all our systems into the net, into the digital world, and now even crime and warfare is now transferring into these virtual spheres. In politics, we saw the same leitmotif. For example, at the European elections for the European Parliament, in many countries, parties were not fighting against the other parties, against their competitors at the first space. No, they were fighting against their own top candidate. Yeah, like for example AfD in Germany, Maximilian Krah, they had more problems with their top candidate than with the political competitors. Similar thing, for example, also in Austria with the Greens and Lena Schilling. And even in the USA, at the US elections for many months, it seemed that the biggest enemy of the Democrats was not Donald Trump. No, it was their own top candidate, Joe Biden, which didn't seem appropriate anymore for this position. And in the last weeks of the US elections, even Donald Trump took my leitmotif of 2024 and proclaimed the fight against the enemy from within.
The worst people are the enemies from within. The enemy from within are more dangerous than Russia. It's the enemy from within. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within.
Yeah, and then in November we saw the explosion of the German traffic light coalition, where three parties had united, the Social Democrats, the Greens and the Liberals, and over a period of many weeks the Liberals tried to sabotage their own government, and they had this infamous D-Day paper where they really made a war plan against their own coalition to make it explode. Up to very strange fulfillments of this astrological leitmotif of the greatest enemy from within. For example, we saw in Lebanon these pagers exploding in their own trouser pockets. Yeah, the greatest enemy comes from within. Or even in the European Football Championship, the goal getter, the top scorer who shot most goals, was not a soccer player, it was the own goal. So the meaning of this astrological leitmotif, the greatest enemy comes from within, was to shoot the old systems of the old Earth age ripe for attack, but not from the outside, like in the first couple of years of the storm and stress period. No, now from the inside, which is much, much more effective. And now all these old systems of the Earth age, they are desolate, they are dysfunctional, they are not working proper anymore. And now in 2025, 2026, we will see the great flood. Everything obsolete, everything not appropriate for the air age anymore will be cleansed, will be purged away. And if we look in detail at this great flood, it's not one flood, it's many floods in floods in floods in floods. It's waves in waves in waves in waves. And it may seem very chaotic and very strange to most of us, because at the first gaze it seems that many completely different topics are popping up in different corners of this world. Yeah, but in the end we will see these bubble effects, that one new catastrophe is popping up and it kind of initiates many other different topics. Everything is interconnected with each other. So these events have very huge side effects, yeah, like we know it from the butterfly effect, from chaos theory. And there are so many interdependencies that these developments don't go linear like in the old Earth age. No, they go exponential, rocket-like. So it will be the year of big surprises. Watching the news will be much more interesting than watching any of those boring Hollywood action movies, yeah, because the news will be the most interesting, the most tense action movie. We will see a plethora of disruptions. We will see multiple crises, and we will see multidimensional events. So at the first gaze, this may seem chaotic to us, But all these waves in waves in waves in waves, they have one single target: to wash away everything obsolete from the old Earth age. So the first sub-wave of the Great Flood I call the rise and fall of empires. In the political sphere, in geopolitics, we will see a very interesting phenomena, that the power relationships of our world economy, of world politics, will change radically in the next 5 years until the year 2030. And these developments will go exponential. So it might be that we hear in the news, oh, this is the most successful country in one special field, and we think, oh, but this country has been went bankruptcy 5 years ago. They had so many problems. How can they be now, just within a few years, the most successful country in this world? So, and also the other way around, yeah, that formerly very successful countries, that they will crush down on the international power pyramid. So the rise and fall of empires, it will be a fight over borders. It will be a fight for influence spheres. We will see new geopolitical actors that want massively getting the power of world politics, and they are fresh, they are young, they are hungry. On the other side, we will see many of the old kings, of the old big empires, that kind of drift away. They are old, they are immobile, they are tired, they don't have any visions anymore. They are just circling around themselves. How can we secure our power position? But this is the most secure way to go downwards. And in this old play of the rise and fall of empires, the major new player will be the BRICS countries. If you look at political commentators in the West, they say, it's just a very loose union, because fighting against the West is not enough to form a solid union, but they just underestimate the power of a common enemy. And so these BRICS countries will get very strong, and it will not be a war like in Ukraine on the battlefield. It will not be man against man or gun against gun, tank against tank, drone against drone. No, the battles of the air age, they are in the cyberspace. And especially they are economic wars and not physical wars anymore. And if you look back in the 20th centuries, this was the century of the United States of America. And to get this pole position on the global power pyramid, it's always crucial that you have the major world currency in your hand, which was the US dollar. Because if the whole world is paying with your currency, then you can just extend your economic and political power by printing money. Yeah, this is really a strange play that humans invented. And of course, the BRICS states, they know about it, and now they introduced BRICS Pay as a new revolutionary decentralized payment system. So countries in the world, they can trade with each other without the US dollar. Yeah, and it's not just that this printing fiat money then comes to an end, which is even more important. The one who takes care of our payments, he knows everything about us. So at the moment, most countries in the world, they pay with American payment companies like Visa, like MasterCard, like PayPal. And these companies, they don't just have a part of our money, they also have all our market data. They know even better than any of our own companies what trends go upwards, what trends go downwards, where people want to spend their money, where people don't want to spend their money anymore. So they have much more precise, much better market data than any other country of this world. And this will end now with BRICS payments, also with all the new cryptocurrencies, with all these centralized digital currencies and so on. And it will not be this game anymore like in the 20th century that we have one global leading currency like it was with the US dollar in the 20th century. No, we will have a multitude of different payment systems. There will be a BRICS pay, there will be the Chinese yuan, there even also will be still the dollar and the euro and so on, but even many more. Air age means decentralization, means multidimensionality, and so we will have many different payment systems in parallel to each other. The next crucial player is China, and China was very, very silent in 2024, like I also predicted in my last annual forecast. And in 2025, China will get out of the hidden. China will get much more offensive in taking its power position in the world. So they will also get into action now. And this also increases the danger for Taiwan, because if we look astrologically into, let's say, the last and the next 20 years, the next 2 years really are those most dangerous for Taiwan. So it seems that now China wants to just take its crucial position as one of the leading nations of our world. China definitely also will be one leading nation in the new air age, because it also has much air in its horoscope. And I also see the danger of a huge catastrophe in China, maybe a catastrophe that kind of forces them or brings them into action, into the action for global dominance. Next country, Russia, which has been quite isolated from the Western world since the war against Ukraine. And also they have found new, let's say, power connections, especially within the BRICS states. But for 2025, 2026, I see a power shift in the Kremlin, similar as it was with Stalin in the 1950s. He was in the middle of his power, and then, zack, overnight, he just didn't wake up anymore. So it will also be some very rapid, sudden change of power in Russia. And then all the cards are completely mixed anew. If Putin is not in power anymore. And then we will see the rise of two quite new players that are quite invisible at the moment. And the first one is India. President Modi, he has really done a tremendous job for completely changing the economy and the political system there. I will definitely tell more about these interconnections to the new mentality of the air age in the forthcoming videos. But India is the country with the biggest population in the whole world. And for a longer time, the British Empire colonized India, and this really was a hard time for India. But now it becomes an advantage, because Indians, they know so much about the Anglo-Saxon cultures. They know to talk English very, very well, and they will use this now to get a much more important role in the world politics. And the second region that now will come up in this rise and fall of empires is Africa, the whole African continent. So in the next couple of years, we will see something that might be called the golden years of Africa. Yeah, and I've already predicted this in numerous articles and videos and lectures since 2016 already. And I remember back when I told this in 2016, people were just laughing and they didn't take it for serious. Now nobody is laughing anymore. Politicians from all across the world are going to Africa and want to establish trade relationships there. And people in Africa, they are young, they are motivated, they don't have so many debts as the Western countries have. Yeah, so they can really now build up with all these brand new technologies of the air age. They can build up a very healthy economy. And I mean, the big disadvantage in the old Earth age was that Africa is huge and it's a very decentralized continent. So between one city and another, there are hundreds or even thousands of kilometers with nothing. So nobody was insane enough to build, for example, railways or streets or telecommunication cables or electricity cables all across the continent. But now, with the new air technologies, it's very easy to build up a new decentralized economy and society system there with solar energy, which is decentralized, with telecommunication via satellites, which is decentralized. And the people there, I mean, they also have been blocked away from knowledge and education, but now with their smartphones, they can catch this up rapidly. And so we will now see a real increase of economical power in Africa in the next couple of years. And all these new empires, all these rising empires, they will also set signs with monumental buildings. For example, what we see with the line in the desert, this is just the beginning of it. On the other hand, what happens to the old world? What happens to America and also to Europe? Yeah, I mean, Europe has the huge problem. It was very successful with the Industrial Revolution. It was very successful in the old Earth Age, but it completely forgot and missed to build up digital business models. And Europe is extremely dependent on the commodity from external countries. Yeah, and so Europe, they did much resourcing in the past 20, 30 years since the globalization of the 1990s. So not just the production went to Asia, also the whole know-how went to Asia, and it was very comfortable for Europe. They built our stuff there, they sell our stuff there, we have cheap commodities, we have cheap labor forces, and we just earn all this money. But now this comfortable situation completely comes to an end. And I see masses of rightless people in the streets, of unemployed people in the streets. We will see the paradox situation that we will have increasing unemployment rates, and at the same time we have this scarcity of expert labor forces, yeah, because the people are just trained and educated in the completely wrong fields. We will see the fall of many of those large and giant companies from the old Earth Age, like industry, automobile, machine production. So all these very successful branches and companies from the Earth Age, they now are declining. They have to get smaller. They have to restructurate their companies. They have to set free many labor forces. And the second victim of decline will be our public systems that have been completely overblown in the last couple of years. If we look at unemployment rates in the USA or in many European countries, they seem to be quite okay, but just because the state hired so many people, so an immense amount of labor force and of intelligence, not bound in productive fields. No, they are bound in administration and in conservatorship. Really incredible. And all these overwhelming welfare states, all these monsters of debts, all these over debts, they now will have to pay the price. Yeah? And what lived on the cost of others, which lived on the costs of life and of productiveness, will break down now. And so let it flow. And I also see a second wave of inflation for these countries. The next subwave of the Great Flood are the spiritual warrior hordes. Partisans, rebels, religious fighters, they are coming into the visible to fight for their visions of a better world. They get out of the hidden like the ninja, like the samurai. They jump out of the shadow and go ready for attack, like an abscess that is bursting out. And I have already calculated this second wave of the spiritual warrior hordes in summer, and I was asking myself, how could this look like? Because the imagination just lacked a bit for me. But now, with the events in Syria, we saw how this will be. It's kind of a blueprint, what happened there. And in many cases, like in Syria, it will happen in a peaceful way. Like we know from all these wandering monks, for example, in many world cultures that wander through the world and spread the word of their God or of their truth among people in a peaceful way. But we will also see it in a very radical way, in the vein of terror and amok. And the motive behind is always, I'm sick of it, it's enough, now I must set a sign, now I go out into action. And so the next subwave will be upheavals and counter revolutions in many parts of the world. So masses of protesting people in the street, everything gets into movement, everything gets into the flow. And we will see upheavals, we will see radical disruptions in the political spheres, but we will also see assassinations and assassination attempts. So a radical approach to change political systems. And in some cases, they will be successful, they will overwhelm old and sclerotic governments, and in other cases we will see counter-revolutions. We will see that with iron fists of strength the systems will fight down these protest waves. The next subwave of the Great Flood is a giant migration tsunami. We will face one or even more disruptive events that will cause a huge wave of mass migration, probably a humanitarian catastrophe that will force people to help here. And I mean, migration has been a big issue in the last couple of years, especially in Europe and in the USA. It doesn't necessarily have to be another of these waves. This is not decided yet by the cosm. Probably it's even a wave back. If we look at the USA with the Trump administration and their promise to send back lots of migrants, or probably also in Europe, if the situation in Syria and the situation in Ukraine would peacify, if peace would take over there again, then probably hundreds of thousands or even millions of people would wave back to their home countries. So it's not set yet where this will take place and in what direction, probably even in Southern Europe or in Africa, or probably it has something to do with another yet hidden conflict. Here Cosm always surprises us, but that we will face another big wave of mass migration in 2025, 2026. This is set. And I'm afraid this will also be caused by the next subwave of the Great Flood, namely natural disasters. In 2025, natural disasters will increase immensely, especially catastrophes caused by fire and by water and by the alchemistic mixture of those two elements in the morphology of lava. Secondarily also gas, steam and smoke. And I always see this picture in my head if I look at these constellations of a flimmering, hot, burning hot landscape like a desert, and within there are giant mighty formations and shapes, and these shapes, they sink into the ground. Probably a big city by the sea at the coast that will be flooded by the sea. Probably a volcano or some kind of tectonic crevices that open up and devour these big structures or flood everything with lava. Even a big earthquake would fit into this astrological picture. It's as if nature would set a sign that it's enough. And all these connected with a massive drought, a massive heat wave that lasts for weeks and for months, and that becomes chronically, and which probably makes whole landscapes uninhabitable. So people have to flee from there, people have to find something new to live. So in 2025 we will see very clearly the effects of climate change. So 2025 will definitely surprise us. It can be one of those scenarios that I've already mentioned, probably one of them, probably a couple of them, or even all of them, or a mixture of them. Probably it's also something completely different, but we will definitely see a great wild card in 2025. So wildcards are always very rare events in futures studies that are extremely rare, not very probable, but if they happen, they change everything. Yeah, and such a wildcard event we will also see in 2025. Just some examples, yeah, just to let your fantasy, your imagination flow. Probably a digital meltdown, a giant cyber attack that paralyzes, that knocks out a whole country. Bank accounts are erased, administration data banks are erased. Everything is gone. Yeah, so complete chaos, complete disorganization. That could be such a wild card. An atomic strike. Yeah, may it something with an atom bomb, an atomic hit. Maybe it be something like the atom fall in Fukushima. Yeah, an atom accident. But in 2025, 2026, also this atomic axis from the stellar constellations are activated. Yeah, or even suddenly warfares with completely new kinds of weapons and technologies. Maybe something strange as we saw in New Jersey with all those drones and UFOs in the sky. So please, for 2025, always count with the uncountable. Always imagine the unimaginable. Yeah, and even if aliens would land on Earth and say, hello, we are here, please don't be surprised by that. Yeah, and then the last of these subwaves of the Great Flood, a rapid interconnectivity. Because these events, especially these catastrophe events, these wildcard events, in the end, they show us that we all have to be united together. There are so immense challenges that we only can solve as one mankind. Yeah, so the positive side of these disasters is that it strongifies everything connected with welfare and with collective well-being. Yeah, so we will see the formation of new unions, new alliances, new leagues and federations. We will face crucial, very important contracts. So mankind is interconnecting with each other completely anew, and this in an astonishing speed. Yeah, so we will have a large movement out into the physical space. So everything is like hordes of wimmering ants going with each other, connecting with each other. So we will have a huge increase of speed in all these interconnections. Because, I mean, on one side, of course, there is competition between different regions, between different nations on our globe. But in the end, we will see a transfer, a shift from trying to be the best one, yeah, to another kind of competition that tries to get the best out of our own resources, which is a huge difference, yeah, because there is no animosity again between the different parties. It's just more like a competition with yourself. And at the end, with all these disasters that we are facing in the next 2 years, we will realize that in the end, we are all part of one global family. And so in the end, this great flood is a great flood of collective consciousness. And this brings me to the last big wave in this flood, and this is the new emotionality. Now that this great flood is getting stronger more and more in the background, many suppressed feelings and emotions are coming up. Like people sitting in the subway and suddenly start to cry, or young people that get panic attacks out from nowhere. You wake up in the morning and feel completely deranged because you were so overwhelmed by realistic dreams, or you sit on your desk in your office and suddenly you realize all these successes and all this money, they don't make any sense anymore without love or without emotion. So this will be something different, something individual for all of us, but all of us will feel that this flood of emotions is coming up from us. All that has been suppressed, especially during the lockdown years, also through all these decades of the old Earth age, where we all had to work, we all had to function, we all had to do our job, we all had to suppress our emotions. Now all this is coming up. And so please don't suppress it, just let it flow. It's so important, it's so healing, it's so curing for all of us. Don't escape or flee into your work or into your entertainment, into online worlds, in some fairy tale esotainment stuff, or in excesses with alcohol and drugs. Don't escape, just let it flow, and let it flow into your consciousness. It's so important, because especially in spring, especially in the month March, we will have a kind of time capsule constellation where we have this rare occasion to leave samsara, the wheel of fate, where we have this rare opportunity to clean our subconsciousness, to create a completely new spirit, a completely new consciousness. The great flood is the flood of cleaning. Yeah, it will create new islands of humanity, and the target is authenticity, veracity, truthfulness. So your feeling is the most precious compass, especially in this very complex and very unpredictable surrounding of the air age. Yeah, you cannot solve this with your logic anymore. You have to solve this with your heart, and your feelings are the seismograph for what's right and what's wrong for you. So now the Katalypse begins, and many people were asking me, what does Katalypse mean? What is this term about? And this was one of the very first prophecies that came to me in the mid-1990s, right when I started with astrology. But back then I have not been an astrologer yet, but I have been a musician, and these visions, they came to me by music. And back then I released this album, Dead Like an Angel, and the Katalypse back then, now nearly 30 years ago, I've described like this. The Katalypse is foreseeing our fate in the year 2025, when collective reality will dissolve due to a genetic feedback evolution of human perception and sense abilities, caused within a few years by the long-term effect of social fashions like information holocaust, brain violation, screen flickering, biomechanical sense transplants, stress, and drug pestilences. All wheels turn around themselves. Starting with two world epidemics of schizophrenia and telepathy, it ends in the omega point of human development, with the materialistic appearance of a single eye with view all around in all directions, receiving all waves, atoms, things, movements, and stimuli in all scales and zooms together at the same time. Vision, smell, sound, taste, and sentiment, the eternal kiss of the pantheistic goddess of light, the blind will, the physical great united energy, the all. So, I mean, this is a bit over-exaggerated because, I mean, obviously we are not there. But even now, after 30 years of astrological calculations, I still see it as the beginning of this development to one mankind organism. And this will develop with the next development steps, 2050 and 2100. We will be nearly there. So, the great flood 2025 shall come. We are prepared. So please spread the word to your friends and to your families. Please share this video with everybody you love. And it's so important that now we stand together as one mankind. All the best for 2025, and thank you so much.
La strada della luce fende le ombre e tanti si perdono infine foschie giù per l'abisso di foglie assurde e giù a negare sul fondo così giù per l'abisso nel cuore del cosmo il blu luminoso si sfuma così viaggio profondo nel mare sepolcro giù per l'abisso di tanto dolore il nostro bruciore si apre così giù per il cielo si scioglie nel sole teatro tenebre si salva così